Hello, my name is Giancarlo Gregoretti, and in this video I will be answering the question, how do democratically held elections have the power to turn violent and chaotic? So this phenomenon isn't particularly new. This phenomenon has occurred through various instances in the past. And this phenomenon really just goes to show that democracy has always been under threat in one way or another. And a few examples of democracy being under threat have occurred throughout the 20th century. And these more prominent examples include Benito Mussolini, who is the former fascist dictator of Italy. And in 1922, he initiated his followers to march on Rome. And this in turn encouraged King Victor Emmanuel to grant Mussolini power, and Mussolini as a result became prime minister, and he adopted the title of Il Duce. And this event in turn encouraged Hitler in Germany to initiate the Beer Hall Putsch, which was in Munich, the city of Munich, where he ordered his brown shirts to march. And this in turn caused a violent revolt, and as a result, Hitler was imprisoned. However, 10 years after this, in 1933, Hitler seized power, overthrowing the former Weimar Republic in Germany, which was the democratically elected government of Germany. And Hitler, in turn, instituted his Nazi regime, which lasted from 1933 to 1945. And I believe the similarities between these two events are very significant, as both of the democratic governments in Italy and Germany were seen as very ineffective in dealing and managing with the post-war chaos as a result of World War I. And in turn, this encouraged both Mussolini and Hitler, two right-wing authoritarian leaders, to seize power and establish their own authoritarian regimes in their own countries. So here in the 21st century, there has been a significant democracy has also been significantly under threat in the 21st century as well. And two events which I'm about to present, which are indicative of democracy being under threat, are firstly, in the month of February, on February 1st, 2021 to be exact, there was a coup in Myanmar. And the context of this situation is where the democratically elected members of the country's ruling party, the National League for Democracy, which was under the control of the nation's former state councilor, her name was Aung San Suu Kyi. She was overthrown by the Tatmadaw, which is Myanmar's military. And the Tatmadaw is under the direct control of the nation's commander-in-chief, Min Aung Hlaing. And the Tatmadaw, their reason for overthrowing the democratically elected state councilor Aung San Suu Kyi is significant. Essentially, their decision to do this is predicated on the fact that they declared the results of the democratic election to be invalid. And the Tatmadaw, as a result of seizing power, instituted a year-long state of emergency. And since then, power has thus been transferred to the commander-in-chief, Min Aung Hlaing. And as a direct result of this, Myanmar's population has been impacted in a very negative way. And many protests against this coup have taken place. And I think the context, and I believe that the Myanmar's history is very significant as it relates to the context of this particular coup, because Myanmar has endured a tumultuous history of colonialism as well as of British colonialism, and in turn, This has caused the persecution of the Rohingya people, which are a minority group in Myanmar. And it has also been speculated that the former state councillor Aung San Suu Kyi has been complicit in the violent persecution of the Rohingya people. Another event, which I think is significant to the context of this particular topic of why democratically held elections have the power to become violent. So on January 6, 2021, a mob of Trump supporters had stormed the nation's Capitol building, declaring that the election results were fraudulent, and their intention was to overturn Donald Trump's campaign defeat. Moreover, they were successful in disrupting the joint session of Congress, which was assembled to count the electoral votes to formalize Joe Biden's victory. And as a direct result of this, lawmakers and staff personnel were evacuated, and rioters occupied and vandalized the Capitol building for several hours. And as a result of this, more than 140 people were injured, and 5 deaths had occurred as a result of this attack. However, many have been brought to justice as a result of our nation's democratic processes. I think that the contrast between these two events is very significant as it relates to the political systems of both countries. As the United States is declared a constitutional republic, which places a strong emphasis on the principles of democracy, whereas Myanmar's political system is very different in terms of the fact that Myanmar, while they have had a history of colonialism and British imperial rule, they have also had a history of military dictatorship as a direct result of the overthrow of colonial rule in Myanmar. Moreover, in the United States, we exercise the principle of civilian control of the military, whereas in Myanmar, the military is directly under the control of the commander-in-chief, rather than under the control of the military. Finally, to justify these two events, as well as the phenomenon of why democratically held elections have the power to become violent, one quote I would like to present is a quote from Joseph Stalin, who was the former leader of the Soviet Union, who once stated, "Those who cast the votes decide nothing, those who count the votes decide everything." And I find this quote to be very significant, as in a sense it speaks volumes, given the fact that it was uttered by probably one of the worst tyrants in human history, who also happened to be governing over a totalitarian police state. And so I think that this quote it relates to how many voters feel as though their voices are not heard by their elected officials. And in addition, many citizens feel as though their elected officials simply don't have their best interests at heart, which is what I believe causes a great deal of civil unrest in many countries around the world, including democracies, where political officials are elected by the majority. Moreover, over the past century, there has been a waning sense of trust among many individuals around the world for the principles of democracy. And to elaborate, many individuals feel as though democracy as a political system is inefficient in managing the problems and conjuring up solutions to adequately solve the problems that our world currently faces. And so I feel as though the waning sense of trust in democracy is ultimately what has been the catalyst for a great deal of political unrest, civil and political unrest, especially as it relates to democratically held elections. And of course, while democracy is in no way a perfect system, I still feel as though democracy is very is still a very essential system in helping to maintain the freedoms and liberties of both the individual and the masses. And so I feel that it is incumbent upon us to maintain the system of democracy for the sake of maintaining freedoms and liberties. Thank you very much. That is my presentation.